Part 1. Money isn't everything, but it's everything you're missing. Have you ever woken up in the morning, looked in the mirror, and asked yourself, am I living or just surviving? You work tirelessly, sweat pouring down, sacrificing sleep and family time only to see your bank account empty by month's end. You tell yourself, if I just earn more money, everything will be fine. But deep down, you know it's a lie. Because money isn't the ultimate answer, but it's the gateway to freedom, to choices you've never dared to dream of. So why are you still stuck? Picture a moment. You've just received your paycheck, the numbers in your account jump up, and your heart beats a little faster. You think, this time will be different. This time I'll save, I'll invest, I'll live the way I want. But then what happens? The electricity bill arrives, you buy a new pair of shoes to treat yourself, and by the end of the month you're back to zero. You're not alone. According to Ramit Sethi, a financial expert with over 20,000 documented success stories, percent of people earning over $100,000 a year, a figure many dream of, still live paycheck to paycheck. They're not poor in money, but they're poor in mindset. Do you see yourself in that? I was once like you. When I was younger, I believed that if I earned more money, all my problems would vanish. I threw myself into work, took overtime shifts, even traded precious hours with friends just to see a bigger number in my account. I remember vividly the day I got my first paycheck exceeding 1 million VND a month. It felt like the world opened up before me. I told myself, now I'll live differently. But then what? I bought a new motorbike even though my old one still ran fine. I ate at fancy restaurants to prove I'd made it. And by month's end, I sat there staring at an empty account, wondering, what did I do wrong? The answer wasn't in how much I earned, it was in how I thought about it. I was trapped in an invisible hamster wheel, earning money, spending money, then earning again. I wasn't the only one. Ramit Sethi pointed out in the interview you just read, when I talk to people with spending problems, 100% of the time they always say the same thing. I just need to earn more. But if your income doubled today, do you really think your problems would disappear? Be honest with yourself. If the answer is no, then you're ready to face the truth. The truth is, money isn't everything, but it's everything you're missing if you don't know how to use it. It's not a magic pill to heal every wound in life. It won't buy true love, erase sleepless nights of worry, or make you proud of yourself if you don't know what you're living for. But here's the brutal punch you need to hear. Without money, you have no choices. Without money, you're forced to work at a job you hate, live in a house you don't want, and say no to opportunities you deserve. Do you want to live like that forever? Take a second and look at yourself right now. How much do you earn? How much do you spend? And most importantly, how do you feel about it? If your answer is, I don't know, or I'm not satisfied, then you're in the right place to change. Because the problem isn't the amount you earn, it's how you think about it, how you use it, and how you let it control your life. Have you ever wondered, why do I work so hard and still feel like it's not enough? It's not your fault. It's the fault of what you were taught, or rather, what you weren't taught. Think back to your childhood. What did your parents say about money? For me, it was the familiar refrain. Money doesn't grow on trees. Every time I asked to buy a toy, my mom would look at me with stern eyes and say, do you know how hard your dad and I work? I grew up feeling that money was something rare, hard to earn, and to be clung to tightly. The result? When I started earning, I didn't dare spend. But when I did, I spent impulsively, as if rebelling against those very lessons. Do you recognize something similar in yourself? Those childhood sayings, we can't afford it. Money is evil. Don't waste it. They root themselves deep in your subconscious, steering every decision you make without you even realizing it. Now imagine a close friend walking up to you and saying, I just doubled my salary this month. You'd congratulate them, right? But if a week later they came back, face drooping, admitting they'd blown it all on a designer bag or a lavish trip to show off on Instagram, what would you think? Maybe you'd shake your head and say, you should have invested it, saved it. But have you ever asked yourself, am I doing the same thing? Am I chasing things society tells me will make me successful while ignoring what truly matters to me? I once bought a small house in the suburbs because everyone told me, you have to own a home, it's a sign of maturity. But you know what? I hated it. I drove 90 minutes each day to work, far from friends, far from the coffee shops I loved. I was lonely in the very dream society told me I needed. When I sold it and moved back to renting an apartment near the city center, I felt lighter than ever. I realized I didn't need a house to prove my worth. I needed freedom. Freedom to live my way. Are you running after signs of success you don't even want? Here's the harsh truth. If you don't control your money, it will control you. The people who live truly rich aren't those with billions in the bank. They're the ones who understand money as a tool, not a goal. They use it to buy time, to live aligned with their values, to say no to what they hate and yes to what they love. Ramit Sethi calls this a rich life. A life rich not just in numbers, but in feeling. You don't need to be a millionaire to have it. You just need to start seeing money differently. Not as an enemy, not as a master, but as a companion. Think about this. If you had an extra 10 million VND in your hands right now, what would you do? Buy a new phone? Pay off debt? Or save it for a trip? Your answer says a lot. For me, that 10 million could be a ticket to take my family out for a nice meal, something I rarely did as a kid because we couldn't afford it. For you, what is it? What truly makes you feel alive? If you can't answer, that's a sign you need to pause and reflect. I'm not here to tell you money doesn't matter. It does, tremendously. But it only matters when you know what to do with it. If not, you'll forever be its slave, working to pay bills, buying things you don't need, only to look back at the end of your life and wonder, how did I live? Like this? You don't want that, do you? Neither did I. That's why I'm writing this for you. To show you that you can change, that you deserve a better life, and that you don't need to wait until you earn enough to start. Imagine a day when you wake up without money worries. You open your eyes, sip a coffee, and smile because you know today you'll do what you love. Not because you have to, but because you want to. You can take your kids to the park without thinking about the end-of-month bills. You can say yes to a trip without fearing your account will hit zero. That's not a far-off fantasy. It's something you can achieve if you start today. But change isn't easy. It demands you face yourself. You have to admit that the way you're living isn't working. You have to be brave enough to step out of your comfort zone where earning more is the only answer you know. Are you ready? If so, here's the first step. Understand that money isn't everything, but it's everything you need to unlock the door to freedom. Not freedom to spend recklessly, but freedom to live as the person you are. Actionable. Step. Stop reading for a minute. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down 3 numbers, your monthly income, your monthly expenses, what's left, or how much you're in debt after subtracting. Look at those numbers. What do they say about you? Do they reflect the life you want? If not, don't panic. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. You don't need to be a financial genius to change. You just need to start seeing money with new eyes, not as an enemy, not as a boss, but as a companion. Spend 15 minutes today writing down 3 things you want money to help you achieve, not what you should want, but what you truly crave. Connecting question. If your income doubled today, would you really be happier? Write down 3 things you think you'd change in your life, and ask yourself, why aren't I starting to do that right now, even just a little? Part 2. A rich life isn't a number. It's a feeling. Millions of people have money in the bank, but their hearts are empty. Do you want to be one of them? Have you ever looked at your account, seen the numbers grow, but still felt like something was missing? You work, you save, you dream of the day you'll have enough to be happy, but that day never comes. Why? Because you've confused having money with living richly. The truth is, a rich life isn't about the digits in your bank account. It's the feeling you get when you open your eyes each day and know you're living true to yourself. Are you ready to feel that yet? Imagine a perfect morning. You wake up, sunlight slipping through the curtains, no blaring alarm forcing you out of bed. You brew a cup of coffee, sit down, and smile. Not because you just won the lottery, but because today you'll do what you love most. Maybe it's taking your kids to the park without worrying about bills. Maybe it's booking a flight to a place you've always wanted to visit, no hesitation. Or maybe it's just sitting with a good book, free from the nagging thought, I need to earn more. That's what a rich life is. Not billions in the bank, but the feeling of freedom, joy, and meaning. But most of us don't live that way. We're trapped in a race where the finish line keeps moving. I remember the first time I earned 5 million VND a month, a big milestone for me back then. I thought, now I'll be happy. But then what? I started comparing myself to people making 10 million, 20 million. I bought more expensive things, not because I needed them, but because I wanted to prove something. The result? I had more money, but I didn't feel rich. I felt pressured, exhausted, and hollow. Have you ever felt that way when money comes but joy doesn't? Ramit Sethi, who's inspired millions through his book I Will Teach You to Be Rich, said something that jolted me. I think you should spend extravagantly on the things you love, as long as you cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't. It sounds simple, but it was like a knife slicing through the wrong beliefs I, and maybe you, had carried for years. We're taught that being rich is about hoarding tons of money, living frugally to the point of misery, and waiting for some future day to enjoy. But what if that day never comes? What if you wait until you're 60 to live only to find you're too tired to enjoy it? Think about this. Where do you spend your money most? Is it morning coffee? New clothes? Or dinners with friends you don't even enjoy just to keep up appearances? For me, it used to be lavish dinners with colleagues. I'm not a party person, but I kept going, kept paying, because I was afraid of being seen as less than. Every time I held the bill, I felt a knot in my chest. Not because of the money, but because I knew I was living someone else's life. Then one day, I stopped. I said no to those pointless dinners and started spending on what I truly loved: books and travel. I bought books I'd wanted to read for ages, no second guessing. I booked a trip to Dalat just to sit quietly by Xuanhuang Lake. For the first time, I felt rich, not because I had more money, but because I was living as me. That's what Ramit calls money dials, the things you're willing to splurge on because they bring you real joy. For him, it's luxurious hotels and top-notch service when he travels. He'll spend hundreds of dollars a night on a beautiful room, but drives a 20-year-old car because he doesn't care about cars. See that? Being rich isn't about owning everything, it's about owning what matters to you. So what's your money dial? Is it time with family, far-off adventures, or just a delicious breakfast without rushing? I once interviewed a friend, Min, a 30-year-old programmer earning 50 million VND a month. He had a nice apartment, a shiny new car, and a decent savings account. Everyone looking in would think, Min's rich. But when I asked, how do you feel about your life? He paused for a long time, then said, I don't know. I have money, but I'm not happy. Min spent on things he should have, house, car, gadgets, but never asked, what really makes me happy? The result? He was rich on paper, poor in spirit. Are you walking Min's path? Here's a truth society doesn't want you to know. You don't need billions to live richly. You just need enough to say yes to what you love and no to what you hate. But most of us can't do that. We're swept up in a whirlwind of external expectations. Buy a house because everyone needs a house. Take fancy vacations. To post on social media. Wear expensive clothes to avoid judgment. And then what? We're exhausted, we're empty, and we wonder, why aren't I happy after trying so hard? Imagine a different life. You wake up each day knowing money isn't a burden, it's a tool. You don't check prices when ordering your favorite dish. You don't hesitate to buy tickets to a concert you've always dreamed of. You don't say no to the people you love because I can't afford it. That's not a millionaire's dream. It's the dream of someone living their rich life. And trust me, you don't need to be as wealthy as Warren Buffett to get there. You just need to start understanding that richness is a feeling, not a number. Ramit Sethi shares a simple exercise he does with people. Write down your perfect day. When he asks this, most people give vague answers. I want freedom. I want to do what I like. But when he digs deeper, what's freedom? What do you like? Over 99% can't get specific. They don't know what their rich life looks like. Do you? If not, you're driving without a map and the destination will always be a mirage. I tried that exercise. What's my perfect day? I pictured waking up in a small, cozy room, the smell of coffee wafting from the kitchen. I'd spend a few hours writing, the work I love, then step outside for a walk with loved ones, no need to check the clock. At night, I'd read a good book, uninterrupted by money worries. It didn't require much money, but it required me to know what I wanted. When I wrote it down, I realized how much time and money I'd wasted on things that didn't matter. Parties I didn't enjoy, stuff I bought just to keep up. What about you? What's your perfect day? Here's the punch you need to hear. If you don't know what your rich life is, you'll forever chase someone else's. You'll spend money to impress people you don't care about, live in houses you don't like and work jobs you hate. But you can change. You don't need to wait until you have billions. You can start today with the money you have by asking, what really makes me feel alive? For me, it's books and travel. I started spending extravagantly on them, not because I'm rich, but because they're my money dials. I bought expensive books without hesitation, knowing one idea could transform my life. I booked a trip to Da Nang just to watch the sea because that piece was worth more than any possession. But I cut costs mercilessly elsewhere. I didn't buy new clothes unless I needed them. I skipped fancy restaurants unless I truly wanted to go. The result? I felt richer than ever. Even if my account didn't have hundreds of millions, you don't have to copy me. Your rich life is yours. Not mine, not Ramit's, not anyone's. Maybe you love good food and you'd splurge on amazing dinners but live in a small apartment to save. Maybe you're into tech and you'd buy the latest gadgets but don't care about clothes or cars. The key is, you have to know what you want. If you don't, money will just be a burden, not a tool. Think about the last time you spent money and felt truly happy. For me, it was when I bought a cheap plane ticket to Hanoi just to eat a bowl of family recipe pho I remembered from childhood. It wasn't pricey. It brought me back to simpler times. What about you? When was the last time you spent money and felt right? If you can't recall, that's a sign you need to stop and think. A rich life isn't about waiting until you have enough money. It's about living with what you have in a way that makes you happiest. Ramit says, you can live a rich life today and an even richer one tomorrow. But to do that, you have to stop chasing numbers and start chasing feelings. You don't need to be a millionaire. You just need the courage to ask, what do I really want? And then use money to make it real. Actionable. Step. Stop right now. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down your perfect day, from waking up to going to bed. Get specific. Where are you? What are you doing? Who's with you? What do you eat? How do you feel? Don't worry about money, just dream. Then look at that list and circle 3 things you love most. Ask yourself, can I start doing one of these today, even a little? For example, if you dream of travel, save 50,000 VND a day for it. If you dream of family time, spend one evening phone-free with them. Start small, but start now. Connecting. Question, what makes you feel truly alive? Take 5 minutes to imagine your perfect day. What does it look like? And ask yourself, what can I do today to get closer to that day? Part 3. The dream house, the financial nightmare. You don't see, do you think buying a house is your golden ticket to happiness? Get ready to have your illusions shattered. Have you ever dreamed of the perfect home? White picket fence, lush green yard, a place you can proudly call mine? Society tells you it's the hallmark of success, the ultimate destination of all your hard work. But what if I told you that house could be the chain binding your freedom, a black hole swallowing your money and dreams? Are you ready to face the truth that the dream of homeownership might be the biggest financial nightmare you don't even see? Imagine the moment you hold the keys to your first house. Pride surges through you as you step over the threshold thinking, I did it. I'm a real adult now. You invite friends over to celebrate, post a photo on social media with the caption, "Welcome to my home." But then what? The first bill arrives, mortgage payment, property taxes, maintenance costs. Then the roof starts leaking, the plumbing breaks, and you realize your home isn't just a place to live. It's a relentless money-eating machine. Have you ever thought about that? Or do you only see the glow of owning while missing the shadows behind it? I fell into that trap once. At 25, I bought a small house in the suburbs because everyone told me, you have to own a home, it's the best investment. I took out a bank loan, put down 20%, and told myself, this is a smart move. But the reality? I drove 90 minutes. Each day to work, far from friends, far from the coffee shops I loved. I was lonely in my own dream. Every month I paid the mortgage, utilities, repairs, and I realized I didn't own the house. The house owned me. I sold it after 2 years. Took a decent loss, but I'd never felt more relieved. Are you chasing a dream that doesn't even belong to you? Ramit Sethi, in the document you read, dismantles the homeownership myth. He says, in America, we love the idea of ownership. We're taught that owning a house is the best investment, that it proves you're successful, but it can be a very bad financial decision. He's not wrong. Think about your grandma or someone older in your family. Maybe she bought a house in the countryside for 100 million VND 30 years ago, and now it's worth 1 billion. People look at that and think, that's an amazing investment. But Ramit asks, did she factor in the maintenance costs over 30 years, the loan interest, inflation, the opportunity cost if that money had been invested elsewhere? The answer is usually no. And that's the problem. We only see the bigger number, not the hidden costs. Let's do a simple calculation. Say you buy a house for 2 billion. VND, put down 20%, 400 million, and borrow 1.6 billion at 7% interest over 20 years. Your monthly mortgage is about 15 million VND. But that's not all. You've got property taxes around 1 to 2 million a year, insurance and maintenance which could hit 5 to 10 million a year if major repairs pop up. Not to mention that 400 million down payment, if invested in an index fund at 7% for 20 years, could grow to over 1.5 billion VND. So how much did you really earn from that house? Or are you just paying for a dream society stuffed into your head? I'm not saying buying a house is always a mistake. For some, it makes sense. If you plan to live there for 10 years or more, if you love owning and decorating it your way, if you've crunched the numbers. Ramit admits, I'll buy a house someday and it'll be a terrible financial decision, but I'll do it because I want to. But the issue is, most of us don't buy houses because we want to. We buy because we think we have to. Do you see yourself in that? Are you feeling pressure from family, friends, or society to own? Think about the last time you heard someone say, renting is throwing money away. I used to believe that. I thought every month I paid rent was a month I lost a chance to build wealth. But Ramit flipped my perspective. He shared that in New York he found buying a house would cost 2.2 times more than renting, about $6,400 a month versus $3,000 to rent. He took the $3,400 difference and invested it, making more than he would have by owning. He didn't just save money, he kept his freedom. If something broke, he texted his landlord and it was fixed. Do you want to live like that? Unbound, unburdened by a property you have to babysit? I remember a friend, Lan, who bought a small apartment in the city because she believed a house is an investment. But 2 years later, she confessed, I regret it. I can't travel like I used to. Can't switch jobs because I'm tied to the loan. I feel trapped. Lan isn't alone. Millions of young people buy homes due to societal pressure, only to realize they've traded their freedom. Do you want to fall into that trap? Or do you want a life where you can say yes to unexpected opportunities like moving to a new city, trying a new job, or simply not being tethered to decades of debt? Here's a truth no one tells you. A house isn't an asset unless it makes you money. If you live in it, it's a cost, a big, ongoing, unpredictable cost. Ramit calls these phantom costs: ghost expenses, loan interest, maintenance, taxes, and missed opportunities. When I sold my house, I calculated and realized I'd lost nearly 200 million VND in 2 years. Not just from the sale loss, but from all those hidden costs I hadn't foreseen. Do you think your dream house is worth that much? Imagine a different life. You rent a just right apartment, not too big, not too small, in a place you love. You don't worry about a leaking roof or busted pipes. That's the landlord's job. The money you save from not buying, you invest in an index fund, letting it quietly grow while you live the life you want. You can travel when you feel like it, move to a new city if you want, or just not be tied down by a massive debt. That's not throwing money away, it's buying freedom. Do you want to live like that? I'm not here to tell you never to buy a house. If that's your rich life, if you dream of a home with a garden to grow vegetables, a cozy nook to read in, and you've done the math, then go for it. But don't buy just because someone told you it's the right thing. Ramit says, for the biggest purchase of your life, you have to run the numbers. And most of us don't. We get swept up in emotions, pressured by family, friends, or society, and we pay with our very lives. Think about this. If you didn't need to own a house to prove your worth, what would you do with that money? I asked myself that after selling my house. My answer was travel and learning. I started saving for a trip to Japan, a childhood dream. I bought online courses to improve my writing skills. For the first time, I felt my money was serving me, not the other way around. What about you? If you weren't weighed down by a house, what would you use that money for in your life? Here's the punch you need to hear. Your dream house could be your biggest financial nightmare if you're not awake. It's not a golden ticket to happiness. It's a choice, and it should only be made if it truly fits your rich life. If not, you're tying yourself to an invisible chain, trading freedom for something society says you must have. You don't need to live like that. You can choose differently, starting today. Actionable step. Pause for a moment. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down 3 reasons you want to buy a house or why you think you should. Then face each one. Is this really important to me? Or am I just doing it for others? Next, do a quick calculation. If you rented instead of bought, how much would you save each month? Take that amount and imagine what you'd use it for: travel, learning a new skill, or investing. Start small. Save 100,000 VND a week from today and put it into a separate account for your rich life. Connecting. Question. If you didn't need to own a house to prove your worth, what would you do with that money for your life? Write down 3 ideas and ask yourself, why aren't I starting one of those right now? Part 4. Investing. The slow and steady path to freedom. Do you want to be rich in 10 minutes or 10 years? The truth will shock you. Have you ever dreamed of a day when money flows into your pocket without you lifting a finger? You scroll through social media, see stories of people making billions from stocks or crypto overnight and think, I could do that too. But what if I told you that the fast track usually leads to a cliff, while the slow, quiet road is the key to real freedom? Are you brave enough to ditch the fantasy of getting rich quick and step onto the long-haul path? Imagine a morning in the future. You open your eyes, no alarm clock needed, no rush to get out the door. You check your investment account, not out of worry, but curiosity, and see it's grown to hundreds of millions, maybe billions of VND, thanks to small decisions you started today. You smile, not because you're rich overnight, but because you know you've built a money machine that works for you silently. That's not a pipe dream. It's the power of long-term investing. But most of us don't believe in it. We want it fast, we want it now, and we pay dearly for that impatience. Used to be a get-rich-quick dreamer. At 22, I heard a friend brag about making 50 million VND in a week trading stocks. I thought, if he can do it, so can I. I threw 10 million VND, nearly half my savings at the time, into a hot stock I knew nothing about. A month later, I lost it all. I didn't just lose money, I lost faith in myself. I wondered, why aren't I as smart as others? Why can't I get rich fast? Have you ever felt that? Left behind as someone else flaunts their success? Then I read Ramit Sethi's words in the document you saw. You don't need to be a genius to make a lot of money. You just need to remember a few key things. Start early, invest consistently, and keep costs low. That hit me like a slap in the face. I realized I didn't need to be smarter, faster, or luckier. I needed patience, something I'd never valued. When I dug into long-term investing, I uncovered a mind-blowing truth. Time and consistency are the most powerful weapons anyone can wield. Listen to Warren Buffett's story, one of the world's richest investors. Ramit mentions him in the interview. Over 99% of Warren Buffett's wealth came after age 60. Do you grasp what that means? Buffett started investing at age 11 and let his money grow quietly over decades. He didn't chase big hits or overnight jackpots. He took the slow, steady road, investing in good companies, letting compound interest work, and waiting. If someone, like Buffett with all his brilliance and resources, chose this path, why do we think we can outsmart it? Let's do a calculation to see its power. Say you're 25 and start investing 2 million VND a month in an index fund with an average 7% annual return, a conservative number the stock market has proven over 100 years. After 10 years, you'd have about 34 million VND. Not bad, but not dazzling. But after 20 years, you'd have 108 million VND. And after 40 years, at age 65, nearly 600 million VND from just 2 million a month. Bump it to 5 million a month, and you're at 1.5 billion VND. See that? You don't need billions to start. You need time and persistence. I tested this in my own life. After my stock flop, I decided to shift gears. I opened an investment account and started putting 1 million VND a month into a simple index fund, what Ramit calls a target date fund, automatically diversified and adjusted for your age. I didn't check it daily, didn't try to beat the market. I just let it grow quietly. 3 years later, I looked back and saw it had reached 40 million VND. Not a fortune, but it stunned me. I'd done nothing but send money consistently, and it still grew. Do you want to feel that? Money working for you instead of you working for money, but here's the catch. Most of us don't trust the slow path. We're hooked on promises of quick riches. I remember another time I nearly got sucked in. A coworker bragged about making 200% profit from crypto in 2 months. He told me, "Don't be slow with those index funds, crypto's the future." I almost jumped in, but then I recalled my past failure. I asked myself, if it's this easy, why isn't everyone rich? Sure enough, as Ramit predicted a few months later, that coworker lost nearly everything when the market crashed. Have you ever been tempted by promises like that? Ramit explains in the document, investing is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm not trying to get 10,000% returns and then blow out. He's right. The US stock market over 100 years delivers an average 7 to 8% return annually after inflation. It's not glamorous, not sexy, but it's reliable. Meanwhile, those chasing crypto or hot stocks often lose it all when the hype fades. Do you want to be standing strong after 20 years or broke after 20 days? Think about this. Where did you last invest? Maybe a new pair of shoes, a phone, or a big party. I'm not saying that's wrong. If it's part of your rich life, enjoy it. But if you're not investing in your future, you're betting everything on the present. I once spent 5 million VND on a new laptop just because it looked cool. A year later, it was outdated and I wished I'd put that money in a fund. Now I still buy what I love, but I always invest a chunk first. Do you do that? Or are you leaving your future to chance? Here's a truth society doesn't teach. Investing isn't for the rich, it's how you get rich. You don't need hundreds of millions to start. Ramit says, one of the ways you get rich is by investing. I began with 1 million VND a month. Not much, but enough to build a habit. That habit changed how I saw money. It stopped being something to spend. It became a seed I planted for future freedom. Do you want to plant that seed? Imagine a friend, Hung, 35, who'd never invested because he thought, I don't have enough money. I sat with him, pulled out a calculator and showed him. If he put 2 million VND a month in from now by 65, he'd have nearly 400 million VND at 7% return. He was floored. Just 2 million? Yes, but he had to start now. If he waited 10 more years, it'd drop to 180 million. Time is your greatest asset, not money. Are you wasting your time? I'm not saying investing is easy. It requires you to let go of the get-rich-quick mindset. It demands you trust something boring like index funds over flashy promises. Ramit calls investing like watching paint dry. Not exciting, not dramatic, but effective. When I started, I found it dull. I wanted to check my account daily, see it soar. But I learned to let go. I set up automatic transfers and let it run. Now, every time I look, I feel peace. Not because I'm rich now, but because I know I'm on the right track. Do you want that peace? Here's the punch you need to hear. Getting rich quick is a fantasy, but getting rich slowly is real. You don't need to be smarter than Buffett or luckier than someone else. You just need to start, stay consistent, and let time do the rest. Freedom doesn't come in 10 minutes. It comes in 10 years, 20 years if you dare to be patient. You don't need to wait until you have enough to invest. You can start with 100,000 VND, 500,000 VND, whatever you've got. But you have to start today, because every day you delay is a day you lose your freedom. Actionable step. Stop right now. Open your phone or computer. Find a compound interest calculator. Google compound interest calculator. Enter your age, the amount you can invest monthly, even just 100,000 VND, and a 7% return. Look at the number after 20, 30, 40 years. What do you see? Now act. Open an investment account. In Vietnam, try platforms like SSI, VN Direct, or funds like Vina Capital. Start with the smallest amount you can, 100,000, 500,000, and set up an automatic transfer. Don't wait. Today is the day you plant the seed for freedom. Connecting. Question. How much could you invest starting today, even just 50,000 VND? Try calculating it with a compound interest tool and see how your future changes. What would you do with that money when it grows? Part 5. Crypto and the trap of get-rich-quick dreams. Have you ever been swept up in the frenzy of making money fast, only to lose it all? You scroll through social media, see someone flaunting a Lamborghini bought with crypto profits, and your heart races. I want that too. You hear promises of 1,000%, 10,000% returns, and you think, one big win, and my life will change. But what if I told you that the dream of getting rich quick isn't a path to freedom? It's a doorway to ruin. Are you ready to see the truth? That the crypto craze might be the biggest trap waiting for you to fall in? Imagine the moment you hit buy on a crypto trading app. The screen flashes, the numbers spike, and you feel like a genius. You text your friends, I just made 20 million in a day. You dream of quitting your job, buying a house, traveling the world. But then, what? The market flips, the numbers plummet, and your account goes from green to blazing red. You panic, you wait, you hope, but in the end, you lose everything. That's not a fantasy. It's the story of millions caught in the crypto fever. Do you want to be the next one? I nearly fell into that trap. In 2017, when Bitcoin first exploded, a close friend, Nam, called me. You've got to invest now. I just made 50 million from Ethereum in 2 weeks. He sent me a screenshot of his account, and the number blew me away. I didn't understand. Crypto didn't know how blockchain worked, but I got swept up. I took 15 million VND, almost all my savings then, and threw it into a coin Nam said would go to the moon. A month later, that coin lost 80% of its value. Nam went quiet, no more bragging. I lost money, lost sleep, and lost confidence in myself. Have you ever been pulled into a frenzy like that, where the promise of quick riches blinds your reason? Ramit Sethi, in the document you read, warns about this. The type of people drawn to crypto tend to be extremely risk-seeking. They see diversification and risk management as boring for old people. He talks about the crypto bros, those shouting fiat is dead and we're going to the moon, only to vanish into silence when the market crashed in 2023. Ramit got fewer than 3 emails from people admitting they lost money in crypto, though he knew thousands had taken a hit. Why? Because we love to flaunt success but feel ashamed to confess failure. Have you ever stayed quiet about a financial loss? Let's be clear. I'm not saying crypto is evil. Blockchain technology is a major leap, and I've held some Ethereum, not to get rich quick, but because I believe in its long-term potential. Here's the difference. I keep it under 5% of my portfolio, as Ramit advises. If you have a well-diversified portfolio and want to have fun with 1, 2, even 5% of your assets, go ahead, but limit your risk. For me, that's a sane approach. But those who dump all their savings into crypto? They're not investing, they're gambling. Do you want to be an investor or a gambler? Look at the data. From 2010 to 2021, Bitcoin soared from a few cents to over $60,000, a fairy tale story. But how many people actually got rich from it? Very few. Most bought in when prices were sky high, then sold in a panic when the market crashed. A study from MIT found that 80% of individual crypto investors lose money long-term because they trade too often and chase emotions. Meanwhile, the U.S. stock market, with index funds like the S&P 500, delivers an average 7 to 8% return annually after inflation over 100 years. It's not flashy, but it's steady. Do you want stability or the thrill of a dice roll? I remember another time in 2021 when a colleague bragged about making 300% profit from a new coin. He told me, your index funds are too slow, crypto's the future. I almost wavered, but then I asked myself, if it's this easy, why isn't everyone rich? 2 months later, he lost nearly everything when that coin evaporated. Ramit nailed it when he said, when someone asks me about crypto, I ask, what does the rest of your portfolio look like? They usually say, portfolio, I put it all in crypto. That's not investing, that's financial suicide. Are you betting everything on one horse? Think about the last time you were tempted by a too-good-to-be-true opportunity. For me, it was an NFT project in 2022. An acquaintance said, just 20 million and you'll make 10 times that in a month. I nearly jumped in, but then I remembered my crypto flop. I asked, what do I know about NFTs? What's my plan if it tanks? I stopped, and that project later vanished into thin air. I learned, getting rich quick is a fantasy for those who ignore risk. Have you ever nearly fallen into a trap like that? Ramit shares his reaction to crypto fans. They call me old, outdated. They say, Ramit, you don't get it, this is the future. I say, yeah, I don't get why you think 4,000% returns a year are normal when the stock market's given 7% over 100 years. He's not against crypto, he's against naivety. If you want to dabble in crypto, do it like me. Keep it small, treat it as fun, not your main strategy. My Ethereum is a tiny slice of my portfolio, and I don't check prices daily. I leave it there, waiting 20 to 30 years, because I know freedom doesn't come from one big hit. It comes from consistency. Imagine a friend, Lynn, 28 years old. She heard friends rave about Dogecoin and threw 30 million VND into it in 2021. The price spiked. She had 100 million in hand, and she thought, I'm a genius. But instead of cashing out, she held on, waiting for it to hit the moon. 3 months later, she was down to 5 million. Lynn didn't tell anyone, she was ashamed. I asked her, if you'd put that money in an index fund, what would have happened? She calculated. With 30 million initial and 2 million a month, she'd have nearly 500 million in 20 years, no stress. Do you want to be Lynn, chasing a craze and losing it all, or building slowly and winning big? Here's a truth society doesn't teach. Getting rich quick is a seductive lie. We see the big winners on social media, but not the millions of silent losers behind them. I once met a guy, Tuan, who bragged about making 500 million from crypto. I asked, "Have you cashed out?" He laughed. "Not yet. I'm waiting for more." 6 months later, he was broke. Ramit's right. We love sharing success, but no one admits failure. Are you getting caught up in someone else's spotlight? Think about this. When was the last time you spent money without thinking? For me, it was buying a new phone just because it was hot. I didn't need it, but I wanted the keeping up feeling. Crypto's the same. It's not investing, it's a thrill. But I learned. Real freedom doesn't come from thrills, it comes from the boredom of index funds, the steadiness of compound interest. I started over with 1 million a month in a fund, and now I don't worry about big hits anymore. Do you want that calm? Here's the final punch. Crypto isn't spammed your road to freedom. It's a trap for the impatient. You don't need 10,000% returns to live richly. You need 7% steadily over 20-30 years to let money work for you. If you want to play with crypto, do it like Ramit. Keep it small, under 5%, and don't bet your life on it. Freedom doesn't come from luck, it comes from a plan. You don't need to wait until you know enough to start. Just pick the slow, sure path and go today. Actionable. Step. Stop right now. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down 3 reasons you'd invest in crypto or any get-rich-quick scheme. Then ask, if it fails, what do I lose? Do I have a backup? Next, try this. Take 90% of the money you'd gamble on crypto and put it in an index fund, like Vina Capital or SSI in Vietnam. The remaining 10%, if you want, use to play with crypto. Set up an automatic transfer for the fund and forget it for 3 months. Check back. You'll see the difference between investing and gambling. Connecting. Question. When was the last time you were tempted by a too-good-to-be-true opportunity? What made you believe in it? Write it down and ask, what can I do today to protect my future instead of chasing illusions? Part 6. Increasing income. The real key to changing the game. You can't save your way to becoming a millionaire, but you can earn your way there. Have you ever sat down to calculate cutting out morning coffee, turning off lights to save a few thousand VND, thinking that's the path to wealth? You're wrong. Saving is necessary, but it's not the key that unlocks the door to financial freedom. To change the game, you have to increase your income, not by working twice as hard, but by working smarter. Are you ready to ditch the live cheap mindset and step into a earn big life? Imagine a day when you wake up, check your bank account, and see a number double what it was last month. Not because you won the lottery, not because you slashed every joy from your life, but because you found a way to make every hour you work worth more. You're no longer stressing over end-of-month bills, no longer counting pennies when dining with friends. You live comfortably, confidently, freely, not because you're a master at saving, but because you're earning more. That's not a far-off fantasy. It's the power of increasing your income. But most of us don't do it. We're stuck in the cycle of earn enough and save everything, wondering why life doesn't get better. I used to be a saving addict. When I first started working, I earned 8 million VND a month. Not bad for a fresh graduate. But I lived like a pauper. I refused dinners with friends because it's expensive. Bought the cheapest clothes even if they tore fast. Didn't dare turn on the air conditioner in summer to avoid high bills. I thought, if I save enough, I'll be rich. But after a year, I'd saved just 20 million VND, a tiny sum compared to my hopes. I was tired, frustrated, and asked myself, am I living or just surviving? Have you ever felt that? Saving endlessly but still coming up short? Then I read Ramit Sethi's words in the document you saw. If I wanted to make someone a millionaire in 20 years, I'd do 2 things: set up automatic investing and increase their income. That hit me like a punch in the face. I realized saving was only part of the equation. The bigger part was earning. You can save 2 million a month from a 10 million salary, but if you boost your income to 20 million, you can save 5 million and still live well. That's the difference between scraping by and thriving. Do you want to be the person cutting everything to survive? or the one earning more to enjoy? Think of a friend, Trang, a 30-year-old office worker earning 15 million VND a month. She always complained, "I can't save anything. Prices keep rising." I asked, "Have you ever thought about increasing your income?" She laughed. "How? I'm just a regular employee." I told her to try something simple. Ask for a raise. Trang worked hard but never dared to ask. After prepping, she met her boss, laid out her value, and, surprise, she got bumped to 20 million. One conversation changed her game. Are you brave enough to do that? Or are you waiting for someone to hand you a raise? Ramit shares an example in the document. A personal trainer earning $60,000–$70,000 a year. He suggests, double your income. How? Find more clients, increase the average value per client by offering extras, like meal plans, and extend their stay from 3 months to 6. If he pulled it off, he'd not only double his income, he'd double his profit without doubling his work. I applied that to myself. I used to write freelance ads for 500,000 VND apiece. I raised my rate to 1 million, added content consulting, and found new clients via social media. 6 months later, my income jumped from 10 million to 25 million a month. Do you see potential in your work? Here's a truth society doesn't teach. Saving has a limit, but income doesn't. You can only cut costs to 0, but you can grow your income 10 times, 20 times, if you dare to think big. I met a friend, Duke, a graphic designer making 12 million a month. He worked hard but whined, "I can't earn more." I asked, "Have you tried high-end clients?" He shook his head. I suggested he shift from cheap flyers to branding for big companies. Duke tried, and now he's at 50 million a month with the same skills. Just changing markets changed his life. Are you putting your skills in the right place? Ramit calls this discontinuous jumps, leaps that aren't gradual. Instead of inching from 10 million to 12 million, 20%, jump to 50 million or 100 million. How? Place your skills in a higher value market, add new services, or create passive income. I used to blog for fun, then turned it into an online course, selling for 2 million each. First year, I made 60 million, a leap from 0. Where can you make a leap in your life? Think about the last time you said no to an opportunity because you thought, "I'm not good enough." For me, it was when a big company asked me to consult on marketing. I was scared, thinking I lacked experience. But I tried, and they paid me 10 million for a short project. I realized I didn't need to be the best. I just needed to step up. Are you holding yourself back, or are you ready to try something bigger? I'm not saying increasing income is easy. It demands facing rejection, learning new skills, stepping out of your comfort zone. But here's what I learned. You don't need to work twice as hard to earn twice as much. You need to work smarter. When I raised my rate from 500,000 to 1 million, I worried clients would leave. Instead, they took me more seriously, and I earned more with less work. Are you brave enough to charge more for your worth? Imagine a friend, Min, an English teacher, making 10 million a month. I told him, why not teach online to foreigners? Min tried, found students via platforms like italki, and now he's at 40 million a month. Same teaching skills, different market. He changed his life. Ramit says, put your skills in a market where they're scarce. Can you do that? Find a bigger, better paying market for what you already know? Here's the punch you need to hear. Saving keeps you alive, but earning makes you live. You can't cut your way to wealth, you have to earn your way to expand the game. I used to think 20 million a month was my ceiling, but when I dared to leap, I saw the sky has no limit. You don't need to wait until you're good enough to increase your income. Just start asking, where can I earn more? And act today. Actionable step. Stop right now. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down 3 skills you're best at: teaching, writing, designing, etc. Then brainstorm 3 ways to increase income from each. Raise prices, find new clients, or add services, like consulting, courses. Pick one idea and try it this week. Email your boss for a raise, post on social media for clients, or create a small product to sell. Start small, but start now. Connecting. Question. Which of your skills could be placed in a higher value market? List 3 ideas right now and ask, which one will I try first to boost my income? Part 7. Money and love. Marriage. Is the biggest financial gamble, do you think love has nothing to do with money? Take a look again when you get divorced. Have you ever dreamed of a perfect wedding, a happy life with the one you love, and thought money would just work itself out? But what if I told you that the person you choose to marry could be the biggest and riskiest financial decision of your life? The wrong partner doesn't just break your heart. They can shatter your wallet too. Are you ready to face the reality that love and money are intertwined more than you think? Imagine the moment you stand before the person you love, exchanging vows, feeling like the world is yours. Their eyes sparkle, and you think, this is forever. But then what? A year later, you discover they've been overspending, racking up hundreds of millions in debt they never told you about. Or they expect you to foot every bill because men should provide. Your dream life turns into a nightmare, not just emotionally, but financially. That's not a hypothetical. It's the reality for millions of couples. Do you think your love is strong enough to weather money battles? I used to believe love and money were separate worlds. When I started dating my ex, I never asked her about finances. I thought, love is about feelings, not numbers. But after 2 years, I found out she had 50 million VND in credit card debt, and she expected me to help pay it off because we're a team. I was shocked, angry, and felt betrayed. I realized not talking about money wasn't romantic. It was naive. We broke up eventually, not just over money, but because the lack of transparency about it killed our trust. Have you ever avoided money talks with your partner because you feared ruining the moment? Ramit Sethi, in the document you read, calls marriage the single most important financial and relational decision you'll ever make. He says, the person you pick will affect where you live, how you spend, the type of house you buy, how often you travel, and the values you pass to your kids. It sounds cold, but he's right. I once met a friend, Hoa, who married a woman obsessed with luxury. He earned 30 million VND a month, but she blew it all on handbags and trips to keep up appearances. Hoa was exhausted, drowning in debt, and they divorced. He told me, I didn't know love could cost so much. Do you think your partner will lift you up or drag you down? Think about this. You and your partner go on your first trip together. You suggest splitting costs, but they say, you should pay it all, that's normal. You laugh it off, but inside you're uneasy. It's not just a trip, it's a sign. Ramit suggests a natural way to broach money. When you travel together, ask, what do you think about paying for this trip? It opens the conversation without pressure. I tried it with my current partner. She said, I think we should split it, but if you want to treat me this time, I'd love that. Her openness reassured me. Are you brave enough to ask that question? I used to think talking about money was crude in love. But then I saw a couple, Nam and Lan, friends of mine. They dated 5 years, married, and divorced after 2, all over money. Nam loved saving, Lan loved spending. They never talked about it before marriage. And when they lived together, it exploded. Nam said, she bought a 20 million VND bag without asking me. I was furious, but she called me stingy. Their marriage didn't end over a bag. It ended because they didn't understand what money meant to each other. Ramit asks couples, what does money mean to you? For Nam, it was security. For Lan, it was enjoyment. Do you know what money means to your partner? Ramit shares his experience with his wife. She asked me about finances, and I realized I knew everything about her, but she knew nothing about me. That made her uneasy. He proposed a prenuptial agreement, prenup, not from distrust, but to protect them both. At first, they argued fiercely. Ramit wanted growth. His wife wanted safety. They needed a professional to align. Eventually, they agreed. Pre-marriage earnings stay separate, joint earnings split evenly if they divorce. Do you think a talk like that is necessary? Or are you scared it'll ruin your love? I used to think prenups were for the rich. Then I met a friend, Tuan, who lost half his assets post-divorce without one. He earned $40 million a month. His wife stayed home. When they split, she took 50% of the house in savings, though he was the breadwinner. Tuan said, "I don't blame her, but I wish I'd protected myself." A prenup isn't about mistrust. It's insurance for both. If you have a business or assets pre-marriage, do you want to lose them just because you didn't plan ahead? Imagine suggesting a prenup and your partner says, "Don't you trust me?" I feared that scenario, but Ramit advises, don't dictate. Explain, "This isn't because I don't trust you, it's because I want us clear from the start." I tried it with my current partner. If we marry, I think a prenup could give us both peace of mind. What do you think? She was surprised, but agreed to explore it. We don't need it yet, but that talk made me trust her more. Are you bold enough to start that conversation? Here's a truth society doesn't teach. Money is the biggest test in marriage. A University of Kansas study shows couples who fight over money are twice as likely to divorce. I saw another couple, Hung and Mai. Hung wanted to invest. Mai wanted cash in the bank. They never agreed, and every money talk was a war. They split eventually. Ramit says, couples rarely talk about money proactively. They only do it when there's a problem. Are you waiting for a fight to discuss money? Think about the last time you and your partner clashed over money. For me, it was when she wanted a lavish trip and I wanted to save. We didn't argue, but I felt tension. Later, I asked, "What do you think money means to us?" She said, "I want to feel secure, but also enjoy." I replied, "Me too, but I prioritize the future over now." That talk helped us understand each other. Do you know what your partner prioritizes? Here's the final punch. Choosing the wrong partner can destroy both your finances and happiness. Love alone isn't enough to overcome money differences. You need transparency, respect, and a plan. You don't need to wait until marriage to talk money. You can start today with a simple question and build a stronger bond. Marriage is the biggest financial gamble, but you can play it smart. Actionable step. Stop right now. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down 3 things you want your partner to know about how you view money, e.g., I want to save for the future. I like spending on experiences. Then plan a talk. Pick a relaxed moment, like dinner, and ask, what do you think about money in our relationship? Start gently, listen, and jot notes. If you're single, write 3 financial traits you want in a future partner. Connecting. Question. If you had to talk money with your partner today, how would you start? Write it down and ask, what will I do to make us both comfortable? Part 8. Money habits. The hidden enemy. Within you, what did your parents teach you about money, and how is it ruining your life? Have you ever wondered why you feel anxious every time you spend? Why you hesitate to invest even though you know it's important? Or why you always feel not enough despite earning more than before? The answer isn't in your bank account. It's in the money habits you've carried since childhood, the invisible scars steering every decision you make. Are you ready to confront the enemy hiding inside you? Imagine sitting at the dinner table 10 years old, asking your mom to buy a toy. She looks at you, sighs, and says, "Do you know how hard your dad and I work? Money doesn't grow on trees." You nod, feeling guilty for wanting something. That phrase burrows into your mind, replaying thousands of times over the years. Now, whenever you consider buying something for yourself, a new pair of shoes, a weekend getaway, you hear that voice again. Don't waste it, money's hard to come by. You stop, you save, but you're not happy. Do you recognize that? In yourself, that invisible guilt every time you spend. I grew up with that phrase. My parents were factory workers toiling 12 hours a day to feed 4 of us kids. Whenever I asked for a comic book, my dad said, "We can't afford it." I don't blame them. They did everything to keep us fed and clothed. But those words stuck with me. When I started earning, I didn't dare spend. I hoarded every penny, living like a miser even as my salary rose from 5 million to 15 million VND a month. I thought, if I spend, I'll run out and I'll fail. Have you ever felt that? As if spending money is a sin? Then I read Ramit Sethi's words in the document you saw. Every time I ask couples, what do you remember about growing up with money? They always say the same things. My parents didn't talk about money. Or they said, we can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees. He points out that those childhood sayings aren't just memories. They're habits controlling your financial life. For me, that habit was fear. I feared spending, feared risk, feared failure. It made me miss out on investing, on experiences worth having, all because I thought saving is safe. Do you have a habit from childhood holding you back? Think of a friend, Lan, 32 years old. She earns 20 million VND a month but lives like she did as a kid, when her family was dirt poor. She said, my mom always told me, save it, you never know what tomorrow brings. The result? Lan doesn't dare invest, doesn't spend, on herself. She's got 100 million in savings but no joy. I asked, what are you saving for? She went quiet. She didn't know. She was just following her mom's habit. Ramit says, if you heard we can't afford it 10,000 times growing up, you'll feel guilty every time you spend, no matter how much you earn. Do you hear that echo in your head? Here's the truth I had to face. Money habits from childhood aren't just emotions, they're a real enemy. They made me impulsive when I spent, then overly stingy. When I broke through my fear of spending, I bought a new laptop just to keep up appearances with friends, a dumb move since I didn't need it. But when I had a chance to invest 10 million VND in an index fund, I hesitated, thinking, what if I lose it? I was torn between extremes, reckless spending and fear of risk. Are you caught between conflicting habits like that? Ramit shares an exercise he does with couples. Ask them, what does money mean to you? When he asked his wife, he said, growth, and she said, safety. That difference explained why they clashed over money before marriage. For me, money once meant survival. I grew up thinking earning was about avoiding poverty, not living better. When I realized that, I started to change. I asked, if money isn't just survival, what could it be? My answer was freedom. Money could buy me time, experiences, peace of mind. What does money mean to you? Think about the last time you spent money and felt guilty. For me, it was buying a plane ticket to Da Nang to unwind. I'd earned 25 million that month, but spending 3 million on the ticket, I heard my mom's voice. Do you know how hard we worked? I nearly canceled the trip, even though I needed it to recharge. But then I told myself, I earn money to live, not to be afraid. I went, and it was one of my best decisions. Have you ever denied yourself joy because of guilt? Here's something society doesn't teach. Childhood money habits can wreck your future if you don't change them. A University of Cambridge study shows people raised in families seeing money as scarce tend to oversave or overspend, both leading to financial stress. I met a friend, Min, earning 30 million a month but living like he was still poor. He said, I'm scared of running out like when I was a kid. He didn't invest, didn't spend on himself, wasn't happy. Are you living with fears from your past? Ramit talks about a couple on his podcast. The husband grew up with money is evil, so he didn't dare earn much. The wife grew up with save everything, so she didn't dare spend. They fought over money, but when Ramit dug deeper, they saw the issue wasn't money. It was childhood habits. They started changing by talking openly, setting shared goals. I learned from that. To shift habits, you have to recognize them first. Do you know which habits are driving you? I began changing by writing down childhood money sayings. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford it. Saving is safe. Then I asked, are these still true for me? The answer was no. I earn more than my parents did. I have knowledge they didn't. I rewrote them. Money is a tool to live better. I can spend on joy and invest for the future. That small mindset shift helped me shed fear. Are you brave enough to rewrite your money story? Imagine a friend in Gok, 35 years old. She grew up with parents who never talked about money. It was taboo. The result? She didn't know how to manage it, spent impulsively, and racked up 70 million VND in debt. When I asked, "What did you learn about money from your family?" she said, "Nothing. They didn't talk, so I didn't know." Lacking good habits is as dangerous as having bad ones. Ramit says, if you weren't taught about money, you'll learn on your own, often the hard way. Are you paying for lessons you weren't taught? Here's the final punch. Your childhood money habits are your biggest hidden enemy, but you can defeat them. You don't need to live forever with fear, impulsiveness, or ignorance. I used to think I'd always fear spending, but when I shifted my mindset, I started investing, spending on my rich life, and felt freer than ever. You don't need to wait until you're ready to change. Just start looking at your past, understanding it, and rewriting your future today. Actionable step. Stop right now. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down 3 money sayings you heard growing up, e.g., money's hard to earn, don't waste it. Then ask, is this still true for me? Rewrite each one positively, e.g., money's a tool for me to live better. Pick one new saying and apply it today. If you fear spending, buy something small you enjoy. If you fear investing, put 100,000 VND in a fund. Take small steps to break old habits. Connecting question. Which money saying from your family still haunts you? How can you change it today? Write it down and try one small action to prove you're different. Part 9. Living fully. Using money to buy time and happiness. Are you trading your life just to pile up numbers in the bank? You work yourself to the bone, save every penny, and think one day you'll really live. But what if that day never comes? What if you spend your whole life chasing money only to realize you forgot how to live? Money isn't for hoarding. It's a tool to buy time, happiness, and freedom. Are you ready to stop waiting and start living fully today? Imagine a morning where you wake up, no alarm screaming, no rush to leave the house. You brew a coffee, sit down and smile because today you'll do what you love. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Maybe it's taking your kids to the park without bill worries. Maybe it's booking a flight to a dream destination. Or maybe it's just reading a good book free from the obsession. I need more money. That's living fully, not waiting until you're old, but living now. But most of us can't. We're trapped in a cycle of work, save, wait, wondering why life passes without joy. I used to live like that. When I started working, I earned 10 million VND a month and saved 80%, thinking, if I have enough, I'll be happy. I skipped outings with friends, didn't buy new clothes, lived like a pauper. I thought, just a few more years of saving and I'll really live. But after 3 years, I had 50 million VND in the bank and nothing else. No friends, no experiences, no joy. One day I looked in the mirror and asked, what am I doing with my life? Have you ever felt that? Life slipping by while you're just a spectator? Then I stumbled on Ramit Sethi's 10 money rules in the document you saw. They're not just financial tips, they're a philosophy for living. The first rule hit me. Always have a 1-year emergency fund. Ramit keeps cash in a savings account for peace of mind, not under his pillow. I started doing it, saving 6 months of living costs, not as much as him, but enough to stop panicking if I lost my job. It gave me security, but more than that, it gave me freedom to live without fear. Do you have an emergency fund to protect yourself? Rule 2. Save 10%, invest 20% of your annual income. Ramit says, pay yourself first so you have more later. I used to think investing was a luxury, but when I put 2 million VND a month into an index fund, I saw it grow. It didn't make me rich instantly, but it made me feel I was building a future while still living today. Are you paying yourself first or letting money slip into nonsense? Rule 3 jolted me. Pay cash for big expenses like an engagement ring or vacation. Ramit doesn't want cost to be the biggest worry for important things. I once borrowed for a trip because I needed the experience, but the interest made me regret it. Later, I saved up for a Dalat trip, paid cash, no debt, and the freedom felt amazing. Are you brave enough to save up to enjoy? Rule 4 stunned me. No limit on spending for books, appetizers, health, or charity. Ramit calls it his book rule. If a book piques your interest, buy it, because one idea can change your life. I used to be stingy with books, but when I started buying what I liked, I learned to write better, earn more. For appetizers, Ramit says he wasn't allowed them as a kid, so now he orders freely to feel rich. I tried ordering an appetizer out. It's not pricey, but the I deserve this feeling was different. Do you have something from childhood you'd love to enjoy now? Rule 5. Fly business class for flights over 4 hours. Ramit used to mock people flying fancy, but he realized some do it to stay healthy, work better. I tried business class once to Hanoi. Not often, but the comfort got me there full of energy. Are you bold enough to spend on comfort to live better? Rule 6. Buy the best and keep it as long as possible. Ramit's driven a 17-year-old Honda Accord because it's reliable, no need for flash. I used to buy cheap shoes that wore out fast. When I got a 2 million V&D pair, I kept them 3 years, saving more, feeling confident. Are you buying cheap only to pay dearly later? Rule 7. No limit on spending for health and education. Ramit learned from his Stanford scholarship, buying books, courses, hiring coaches as the best investment. I started spending on gym and an online writing course, better health, higher income. Are you daring enough to invest in yourself? Rule 8. Earn enough to work only with people you like and respect. Ramit built his career to choose partners, not be forced. I used to work with awful clients for money, but as income grew, I said no. Result? I'm happier. Are you stuck with people you dread? Rule 9. Prioritize time outside the spreadsheet. Ramit spends 1 hour a month on finances. The rest is living. I used to obsess over my account, but automating investing and spending gave me time to walk, read. Are you living in a spreadsheet? Rule 10. Marry the right person. Ramit says it's the biggest financial decision. I learned from my past relationship, not talking money led to a breakup. With my current partner, I'm open about finances, and we're stronger. Do you have the right partner? Think about the last time you used money to buy joy. For me, it was buying movie tickets for my family. Not expensive, but their smiles were priceless. Ramit says, a rich life is lived outside the spreadsheet. I realized money isn't for hoarding, it's for buying time and happiness. Are you using money to live or just to exist? I met a friend, Hoa, earning 40 million VND a month but never spending. He said, I'm saving for retirement. I asked, but are you happy? He went quiet. He had money, no life. Ramit advises, spend extravagantly on what you love, cut mercilessly on what you don't. I started spending on books and travel, my money dials, and cut clothes, dining out. Result? Happier, even if not richer. Do you know your money dials? Here's the punch. If you're not using money to live fully, you're wasting your life. Money isn't for waiting. It's for enjoying today and building tomorrow. I used to think I had to save forever to live, but applying Ramit's rules, I saw I could spend and invest. You don't need to wait until you have enough. Start now, buy time, happiness, freedom with what you've got. Actionable step. Stop right now. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write down 3 things you hate doing: laundry, waiting at airports, etc. And 3 you love: reading, traveling, etc. Pick one you hate and use money to ditch it. Hire a laundry service, buy priority boarding. Pick one you love and spend on it this week. Buy a book, book a nice meal. Start small, but live fully today. Connecting. Question. If you could use money to eliminate one thing you hate, what would it be? Plan to do it and ask, what will I do with that time for my happiness? Part 10. Your journey, rewriting your life starting today. Today is the day you stop dreaming and start living. Are you ready? How long have you spent imagining a better life? more money, more freedom, more happiness. But if you keep dreaming without acting, you'll stay stuck, watching your life slip by in regret. This isn't just another chapter. This is the final call to grab a pen, rewrite your story, and live the rich life you deserve. Will you keep waiting, or will you start right now? Imagine 5 years from now, you wake up in a house or a rented apartment you love, not because it's expensive, but because it reflects who you are. You open your bank account and see enough to say yes to what matters. A trip with family, a course to grow yourself, or simply time to rest without worry. You look back and smile, not because you're rich by the world's standards, but because you're living true to your rich life. That's not a fantasy. It's what you can achieve if you begin today. But most of us don't. We wait, we delay, we tell ourselves, when I have enough money, I'll live. I was once a waiter. At 23, I earned 8 million VND a month and thought, when I hit 20 million, I'll start investing, traveling, living for real. But then what? I waited, I saved, and 5 years passed. I was still there. My salary crept to 15 million, but my life didn't change. I didn't invest, didn't enjoy, just worked and waited. One day I sat down, stared in the mirror, and asked, if I died tomorrow, what would I leave behind besides this meaningless savings? That question woke me up. Are you waiting for a someday that never arrives? Ramit Sethi, in the document you read, said something that chilled me. No one stumbles into a rich life. It takes intention and constant work. He's right. I realized a rich life doesn't just appear. It's something you build, step by step. I started small, putting 1 million VND a month into an index fund, buying a book I'd always wanted, saying no to parties I didn't enjoy. In just a year, I had 15 million in investments, new knowledge, and time for myself. Are you bold enough to start small for a big change? Think back over our journey. In part 1, you saw money isn't everything, but it's the key to choices. Part 2 taught you a rich life is a feeling, not a number. Part 3 shattered the dream house myth. Part 4 showed you the slow, steady investing path. Part 5 warned of get-rich-quick traps. Part 6 pushed you to boost income. Part 7 stressed the right partner. Part 8 faced your old habits. And Part 9 urged you to live fully. Now Part 10 is where you tie it all together, not to read, but to act. What have you learned from this journey? I met a friend, Nam, 40, earning 50 million VND a month but unhappy. He said, I have money, but I don't know what I'm living for. I asked, what's your rich life? He went silent. He'd never thought about it. I gave him Ramit's exercise. Write your perfect day, Nam wrote. Waking up late, breakfast with his wife and kids, fishing, reading. I asked, why aren't you doing that now? He reflected, then shifted, cut work hours, spent time with family. 6 months later, he said, I've never been this happy. Do you know your perfect day? Here's a truth I learned. You don't need billions to live your rich life. You need the will to start. Ramit talks about splurging on hotels, but driving a 20-year-old car, his choice. I began spending on travel and books, cutting clothes and dining out. Result? I'm not richer in cash, but richer in feeling. I recall last year's Da Nang trip. Not costly, but sitting by the sea with a good book made me feel alive. Are you brave enough to choose what makes you alive? Think about the last time you put off something you wanted. For me, it was a writing. Course I delayed, thinking, when I have time. I waited 2 years, then realized, time doesn't come, you take it. I signed up, spent 5 million, and now earn an extra 10 million a month from writing. Ramit says, a rich life is dreaming bigger, not smaller. I stopped dreaming small. I acted. Are you delaying something, thinking, it's not time yet? Here's your plan to rewrite your life, based on all we've learned. Define your rich life. Write your perfect day, down to every detail. I want to wake in a small apartment, write, walk, read. What's yours? Set up automatic finances. Put 10% of income in investments, 5% in savings, as Ramit suggests. I started with 2 million a month. You can start with $500,000. Increase income. Find ways to earn more from your skills. I raised my writing rate from $500,000 to $1 million. What can you do? Spend on joy. Pick your money dials and cut what? Doesn't matter. I spend on books, skip parties. You choose what? Live now. Use money to ditch one thing you hate. Do one you love. I hired laundry help, traveled. What will you do? Imagine a friend, Lynn, 28, an office worker earning 12 million V&D a month. She read the first 9 parts and acted. She wrote her rich life, waking early, yoga, traveling twice a year. She put 1 million in an index fund, asked for a raise to 15 million, spent on yoga classes, cut shopping. A year later, she had 20 million saved, a healthier body, and just went to Pooquak. She said, "I'm not rich, but I'm living." Do you want to be Lynn? Here's the final punch. Your life isn't for waiting, it's for living. I used to think I needed wealth to live, but when I acted, investing, earning more, spending on joy, I saw I was living my rich life with what I had. You don't need to wait for enough money. Start today with 100,000 VND, one small choice, and build the life you want. Your journey begins now. Will you step up or stand still? Actionable step. Stop right now. Grab a piece of paper or open your phone. Write your rich life 5 years from now. Where you live, what you do, who's with you, how you feel. Be specific. Then pick 3 small steps to start. Put 100,000 VND in a fund, ask for a raise, buy something you love. Place that paper where you'll see it daily, desk, bathroom, mirror, and do 1 step today. Don't wait. Live now. Connecting. Question. What does your rich life look like in 5 years? Write a page and put it where you'll see it every day. Ask yourself, what will I do today to get closer?